So we'll keep it moving and grooving into some football where Chris Wood scored another goal for Nottingham Forest. But two dudes I want to focus on as well as Chris Wood, and I do think we will explore the wider depths of the wider parameters, sorry, of the Flying Kiwis realms in our bonus podcast tomorrow for any more deep cuts, any more crazy spots of Aotearoa footballing excellence around the world. Moses Dyer scoring two goals, one with the right foot, one with the left foot, sensational. And I did ask you a few weeks ago if he was in the All Whites mix, and he shut that down, and then he scored one with each foot. So I'll raise that question again. And Callum McCowatt, who seems to be scoring a goal every week for Silkeborg IF. So Flying Kiwis, three dudes to touch on: Chris Wood, Moses Dyer, and Callum McCowatt. Let's start with Chris Wood. Been off the radar for a couple of weeks, returning from injury, wasn't scoring as many goals. What happened this week? You got his offside behind you. He loves an offside. How's the offside stats tracking for Chris Wood this season?
Pretty good. I put that up there so that I would remember to talk about that when we got around to Chris Wood, because he is second in most offsides in the Premier League this season. Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton is about 3 or 4 ahead of him. I think he's on 27 offsides and Wood's on 23 or 24. Did have a goal offside, disallowed for offside against Spurs on the weekend, but then 5 minutes later he scored one that was onside. So that's perfect Chris Wood stuff, pushing the line, get flagged for one, you don't get flagged for the next. You finish both of those chances. The only two shots he had all game, and one of them didn't count, but he scored from, he scored from the one that did. Standard Chris Wood stuff. That's actually, though, the first goal he scored for about 2 months. Mid-February was the last time he had scored for Nottingham Forest. There was an international break in there where he scored a bunch of goals for New Zealand, so it's not like he was getting no goals at all. But didn't score for Nottingham Forest for a couple of games just prior to that, where they had some quite good results as well. They were sort of grinding out points against some good teams, and he was just doing what he does. Didn't pop up with a goal, but did his normal hard work, hold up play and stuff like that. But there's a couple games after that where maybe they dipped a little bit, and then he got injured after. Well, he's injured after the international break as well, and not at his freshest when they played against was it Everton just prior. So they needed something from him against Tottenham. That was a big game. They'd lost 2 games in a row, and they need to get their Champions League track going again, and they did. They won 2-1. He scored the second goal. They 2 goals early, 2-0 up after 15, 16 minutes. Parked the bus a little bit in the second half, but that's all right because Nottingham Forest can play on the counter attack, and they got away with a very, very important 3 points, which jumped them back up to third. Man City won this morning, so that's back down to fourth again, but top 5 gets Champions League. Forest have a game in hand on City, can go back ahead of them when they play next. Although, first up before that, they actually play Manchester City at Wembley in the FA Cup semi-final this weekend.
Moses Dyer also scored a double for Galway United. Now, I'm assuming, I'm not assuming, I know Damien Duff of, I used to know that footballer fame. He is the coach of Shelbourne United, who Dyer scored the 2 goals against, and he just said in this YouTube post-match debrief that Moses Dyer is the best striker in that league, unless you've been living under a rock. So that's big up Moses Dyer for his mahi in Ireland. What have you made about his?
He actually said that because I never saw that. I'm going to have to find that clip, and that's some high praise.
One of, if not the top striker in the league, unless you've been under a rock. All with an Irish accent, obviously. So Moses Dyer in Ireland. Let's quickly roll through these, or else we'll be here all day. What have you made of his work in Ireland?
Yeah, great. 5 goals in, I think it's 5 goals in 10 appearances. They played 11 games, but he missed one of them. So that's how that stands. And I swear, when he was playing in Canada, he scored a fair few goals playing in Canada over the last few years as well. but I swear there were a lot of penalties and tap-ins there, which like all goals count the same. Sweet as Chris Wood's made a habit over being a great penalty scorer and someone who buries goals from 6 yards out. That makes you a great striker if you can do those. I only mention this not to say that one is better than the other, just to say that he seems to be scoring a whole lot of bangers in Ireland. Like he's scoring these counter-attacking, cutting inside, curl in top corner, that amazing volley from a couple of weeks ago. Like this is a different side of Moses Dyer to what I've seen before. He looks very confident. He's playing extremely well. Damien Duff thinks he's one of, if not the best strikers in the League of Ireland. And I wouldn't have predicted him to be on the fringes of always World Cup selection. I still don't think he will make that squad, but he's put himself in the conversation. Max Mata's been picked out of this league before as a goal scoring striker. To do that, Max Mata had to be like his League of Ireland is not the highest level going around. It's definitely an improving level though, and it's a really fun competition. There was one of those Copper 90 videos recently about the League of Ireland, just the growth of it and how the fanfare in the last few years, like crowd sizes have multiplied and all this, and it definitely seems to be a league that's going in a very positive direction. But yeah, Max Mata to be selected for the All Whites out of there was Golden Boot contender. That's the level he had to be at to get there. Nando Pajnica, one of the best centre backs in their competition, in order to be selected. But Moses Dyer so far is doing similar things. Like he's scored 5 goals. That puts him, I think there's like 5 guys who have scored 5 goals so far this season, but they're all tied for top of the Golden Boot. If he can keep that up at a time when Ben Waine is almost never playing at the moment and is coming up to a very, very interesting juncture in his career where he's probably going to be released by Plymouth. He's not playing on loan at Mansfield. Who knows what he'll be up to? Max Mata has another year under contract at Shrewsbury Town, who have just been relegated to League Two. I suspect he'll just go back to Auckland FC for another season, if not on a permanent deal, or then on a second loan. And he's been awesome for them, so I don't think there's an issue there. I think he still gets picked ahead of Moses Dyer. Pretty easy decision to make that one too, I suspect. But Dyer keeps doing this, he might only be one injury away from getting called up to World Cup. So I don't think he's in the 23, but who knows what will happen between now and then. He's playing fantastically, and whether he does or not, regardless, he's scoring cool goals every couple of weeks, and that alone is awesome.
And it's good that he seems to have found a home where he can score those cool goals, and hopefully he can settle down in one spot. Because I'm just looking at his transfer history. He departs Eastern Suburbs heading into 2020 for Floro SK in Norway. Then he goes to Valor FC, but he comes back during the pandemic to play for Manukau. But then he goes back to Valor. Then he goes to Tulsa. Then he goes to Vancouver FC. Then he goes to Pacific FC. Then he goes back to Vancouver FC. Then he goes to Galway. So he's got a lot of Canada there, a bit of USA as well, but he's in Ireland now and he's doing well. What about Callum McCowatt, who similar position to Moses Dyer, you reckon?
A little more of a winger versus Dyer's playing as a centre forward, but both of them I think have a long history of being able to play across the front line. So yeah, similar enough. However, I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like Callum McCowatt is one of the most underrated All Whites at the moment. Certainly when you look at, I don't think he gets mentioned. Chris Wood casts a shadow over all of the other All Whites attackers, to be fair. But yeah, I don't know if McCowatt gets as much recognition as he ought to, not just for the stuff he does in an All Whites jersey, but especially for the stuff he does at club level, because they're in a Superliga. That's a big deal. That's a top 15 European league. And he... yeah, there's a little bit frustrating when Silkeborg didn't make the top half of the table when they did the cutoff between championship rounds, relegation rounds. They were right there for the taking, but they probably, frankly, should have gotten there, but they slipped up in the last couple games and didn't make it, fell into the bottom half. But I think good thing about being in the bottom half is that you are playing against teams that are in the bottom half the rest of the way. So he had scored a couple goals before that, and now he scored a bunch more since then. So in his last 9 appearances in the top division in Denmark, he's scored 5 goals and got an assist. So that's 6 goal contributions in 9 games. That gets even more impressive when you take into account that the first 4 of those games he played off the bench. So he's done all of that in about 500 minutes of action, which works out to better than a goal contribution per 90 minutes. So he's effectively doing something every game, on average. That's kind of incredible. The New Zealand New Zealand footballer doing that in a division like that. There's not a lot of precedent for that. So Callum McCowatt's getting pretty. I don't know. I think he needs a bit of a boost in his reputation. I think a bit more. Maybe Denmark isn't as flashy or fancy as obviously the English Premier League or Italy's Serie A or whatever. But there's not too many others who are playing at a higher level than that. You can make an argument Denmark is stronger than the Dutch league that Ryan Thomas is playing in, that Matt Garbett was playing in before he fell out of favour. There's some big deal stuff that Callum McCowatt's up to. So, yeah, I'm glad we got to highlight him, give him a bit of a spotlight on the podcast here. Doing our little bit.
Well, he's doing enough because he left the Wellington Phoenix to join FC Helsingør, but then Silkeborg paid a transfer fee in 2023 to Helsingør to make sure they got McCowatt. So he's obviously loved in Denmark.
Yeah, and the only reason he wasn't playing a lot more at the start of the season, like the reason why this is coming into, he's hit this great run of form now in the latter part of the campaign. The only reason he wasn't playing in the first half of the season is because he was injured. He was in for a couple of games, recurring injury, struggling, not getting. It's not like he wasn't getting picked. It's just that he wasn't fit. He wasn't available, and then it took him a little bit of time to ramp up playing off the bench. But he started the last 5 games in a row for them, which is more than he'd started at any point through the rest of the season combined. So he's hitting good form at a good time.